taxis that come to their rescue.
It's when Taxi Driver becomes a fantasy film.
We're not very good taxi drivers.
Yeah, don't hire us.
You're watching Movie Talk.
Gwangju!
I'm Jason.
I'm Pierce. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be talking about another one of our favorite Korean films. We are going back to a dark chapter of Korean history, the same one we talked about Gwangju. We're doing so again with the film A Taxi Driver. A Taxi Driver takes place in May 1980. It stars Song as a taxi driver in Seoul who gets a lucky fare when he picks up German reporter Jürgen Heinz-Peter and brings him down to Gwangju because this journalist wants to cover this unrest that he's hearing that's happening in Gwangju, whereas the taxi driver and other people in Korea are not aware of what's going on. So he brings him down there, and then we kind of get a first-hand view of what goes on during those pretty bloody and horrible days in Gwangju.
Why watch?
A Taxi Driver deals specifically with Gwangju, and it does it in a very mainstream way.
It's a different film compared to A Peppermint Candy. You get to see what happens in Gwangju, but you don't really learn about what really happened in the lead up to it.
For people who might not know, when we're referring to Gwangju, what is Gwangju? Gwangju is obviously a city, and what happened in May 1980s is really infamous a moment in Korean history towards the beginning of the Chunduan administration. Yeah. And essentially there were some unrest, some student protests happening there, and Chunduan activated the military and sent all these troops in there, and ultimately a lot of people died over a few days in May.
Key scene number 1.
The opening sequence where we see Song Kang-er, he's playing this taxi driver and he's driving through Seoul. There we see the protest, right? And then he picks up this couple, this pregnant woman and her husband, and takes them both to the hospital.
Several times in the film, he will end up driving people to the hospital, and you see he keeps driving people there and not really accepting payment, and all the while his eyes open to what's really happening, and his kind of antipathy becomes guilt and then becomes some kind of responsibility.
Key scene number 2.
A woman gives Song Kang-ho a bag of these jumokbap, these kind of rice balls. And these rice balls appear a little later. And at one point, it's literally like Song Kang-ho will kind of realize his responsibility as he bites into one of these jumokbap. Powerful motif there.
The food is referenced a few times in the film, which is that dinner scene. So they're kind of trapped in. The journalist and a taxi driver. They can't leave Gwangju at that point because the car's broken down and there's a curfew.
매워라. This is spicy, hot.
Not a problem. I can handle spicy. Water.
It's when sort of the characters who might be on different sides of the tracks, they kind of come together over that meal, and they align, they become friends. So specifically, like Song Kang-ho and Yoo Hae-jin are sort of like they're kind of a bit opposing before that, but then after the meal they become allies.
Key scene number 3.
So we hear some gunshots and an explosion that happens. It's on fire, and so they go to investigate. The authorities are hunting down not only anyone they think is involved in the protest, but also a foreign journalist that they see shooting or filming the events. The imagery there is really quite striking because it turns quite orange because of the blaze and the smoke. And it turns into almost like a thriller at that point as they try to run away from these very kind of nefarious figures. And Yoo Jun-yeol, he's the student in the film.
Are you a reporter?
Yes.
우리를 찍어주려고 독일서 기자님이 오셨구만이라.
Students obviously played a big part in the protests. They spread throughout the country, and it wasn't just students who were protesting, it was civilians from all walks of life. But certainly university campuses was where it all kind of began. And So his role in the film is certainly quite significant. And I'm a big fan of Yoo Jun-yeol.
Trivia.
Well, let's begin with Song Kang-ho, because just looking at his performance, and he's become this huge actor, not just in Korea now, but following the success of a number of Korean films, not least Parasite. He's just an extraordinary actor, and I think what distinguishes him from his peers or his contemporaries is just the way he connects with his audience. He performs really well in ensemble casts you see in Bong Joon-ho's films, you know, Parasite or The Host or Memories of Murder or Snowpiercer. But here he very much carries the film, doesn't he? And you see that in The Attorney as well.
It would be hard to imagine this film without Song Kang-ho, honestly. I'm not sure how easily we would have been able to connect with that journey if it was anyone else.
And you need that in this kind of film. You need that emotional kind of attachment.
Pop quiz. What does Mansap apply under his nose?
Is it like some
White
Vaseline?
thing. It's like, is it like toothpaste or something?
Where did Mansap work abroad?
Saudi Arabia.
What's the name of Yoo Jun-yeol's character?
I'm a big fan of Yoo Jun-yeol.
I remember his character's name from Believer, which we did a few weeks ago, but I don't remember this one.
Yeah, I do remember. I'm a big fan of Yoo Jun-yeol.
What name does the taxi driver give to the German reporter?
It's Kim Sabok,
Kim
because
Sabok.
he uses the Sabok Dambe, Sabok cigarette.
Yeah, he uses cigarette pack, yeah.
How many actors from Parasite are in A Taxi Driver?
I think it's just
Two, right? Lee Jong-un and Song Kang-ho. Is there someone else?
3, 2, 1, jump!
Jang Eun's A Taxi Driver features an amazing performance by Song Kang-ho about the Gwangju Uprising in May 1980.
The Gwangju Massacre gets the blockbuster treatment in the stirring, if occasionally calculated, political drama Taxi Driver, built around a sensational Song Kang-ho.
Thanks for watching.
If you were interested in our discussion and you're curious to watch the film, you can do so by checking the link down below. Taxi Driver, Gwangju! See you next time.
Bye-bye. Take care.